Welcome aboard the Boat Buyers Secret Weapon podcast, where we're dedicated to helping first-time and experienced boat buyers find the right boat at the best price so they have years and years of boating fun, because life truly is better on a boat. Today's podcast is sponsored by the Boat Buyers Secret Weapon YouTube channel. Don't pay too much for your next boat. Just visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/save to watch a short video. Now, let's hop aboard and have some fun. Welcome to the Boat Buyers Secret Weapon podcast. I'm your host, Captain Matt, and today we're talking with William. William's in the Midwest, I believe in Chicago, and has been looking at some pre-owned cruisers. So, William, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So William sent me a little bit of information. He's zeroed in on a boat. And so tell us a little bit about your boating background and what has you making this change into the cruising lifestyle.
Okay. About 6-7 years ago, I got a smaller Yamaha 190 SX, more of a deck boat, just to hang out with friends and things like that. I sold that after having it about 3 years, and then tried the boat club thing. The boat club was not what I expected. I guess they say you get what you pay for. So yeah, you can save a few bucks doing that, but are you really going to be happy? I realized I wasn't happy doing that. Didn't have wasn't able to be as spontaneous as I wanted to as far as making reservations. I said, you know what, now is the time to make the jump. I have friends that have cruisers. I've never owned a cruiser. So I'm fairly new to as far as this aspect, purchasing a cruiser.
Okay.
Didn't want to get anything too big, and zoned in on what I'm looking for.
Okay, perfect. So he sent me that William said, hey, I've got an 09 250 SunDancer, which is a great size. It'll be for you jumping from the 190. I'm not sure what you all ran in the boat club with that experience, but a 250 Dancer is going to be an easy boat for you to handle as you get into the cruising lifestyle. And you are in Chicago, is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. And William is looking at a boat that's coming from saltwater. So tell me a little bit about what you know about that boat right now, and what your questions are specifically.
So the owner is originally from the Midwest. What they did was they used it in Indiana, Chicago harbors, and then they took it out to Florida for a couple of years. Now it's back out here. They had it out here this last year. So it had been in saltwater for a couple of years.
Okay.
From what I know, they put a new engine with it has 100 hours on it so far. So that kind of raised the red flag. Okay, well, obviously something happened. Did they maintain it? They don't seem like, but they seem more like myself, kind of newer boaters or not avid, captains and things like that. So I get they're kind of parallel on where I'm at.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions, and that's what prompted me to reach out to you.
Yeah, and William mentioned before we got started that he's watched several of the videos at the Boat Buyer Secret Weapon YouTube channel, which is an awesome start. And said, hey, let me reach out and ask some questions specifically. So a couple of things. You've obviously watched the how to buy a used cruiser video. And then one of the questions, which is a great question, is, hey, what questions do I need to ask the owner? And he already, I could tell he had watched some of my videos, because he said, besides risers and manifolds. Like I know I've got to ask when that was done, because that's
Absolutely.
an expensive. So that's great. I love it when people are informed before we get on the phone. And then the replacement of the engine. Yeah, it raises a red flag, not a deal killer by any means, but just okay, let's slow it down. Let's ask some more good questions. And here are the questions that I would ask on that engine. Is one, hey, show me the receipts of what you did and who did it. One of the things that you can find when an engine's replaced is, hey, if you go and you put a new OEM engine in, and somebody that is a certified Mercruiser technician does the work, hey, that clears up that red flag pretty good for me. And the fact that it's got 100 hours on it since that, okay, I feel pretty good about that. Now, if they say, well, my buddy Bob did it, and he works on cars, but he was able to do it. I don't have any real receipts, and we got an aftermarket motor that isn't marinized quite right. Now I've got some concerns. So if you can ask, and that's a 6.7. What's in that? Is it a 5.7 or is it the 5.0?
It's a 5.0 Bravo 3.
Okay. So that's probably a $7, $8, $9,000 motor, depending on exactly what they had done. So they should probably have those receipts, and they certainly will know who they wrote that $8,000 check to. So who did the work? What exactly did they do? And do you have the invoice so I can have that for my records and I know this was done, this wasn't. This was an aftermarket part, this was an OEM part. And I really like to lean towards the OEMs on most things. But if I see a couple of aftermarket parts or a couple remanned parts, it's okay as long as it's from a reputable dealer or a reputable mechanic, a certified mechanic, somebody that really knows what they're doing. The other thing, did they do anything to that Bravo 3 drive, or was it just the motor?
Okay. I have no idea on that one.
Yeah, so ask that. Because what I don't really, well, I guess I kind of care what happened. Like you said, they're newer boaters. It was probably just something dumb. Maybe they didn't winterize it. Maybe they had a freeze in Florida that caught them off guard.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
what I want to know is what exactly did they do? And if they did have to replace that drive as well, now I want to find out, did you use an OEM Mercruiser Bravo 3 drive, or did you cheap out and get an SEI drive or another aftermarket drive? And now with that big heavy 250 Dancer, now I'm a little more skeptical if you didn't go with the OEM Bravo 3 and you went with an aftermarket. SEI has a notorious reputation for not being as durable in some of their products. So I would steer clear of that if you find out it does have that.
All right.
So those are the big questions that I'm gonna ask, and then also, what were the hours on the boat when you replaced it, and then how long did it take you to get to this 100 hours that they say is on this engine? Was that done in a year? Was this motor put on 2-3 years ago? Just so I have a sense of how long has this new engine been in operation, and what maintenance has been done to that, and how reliable has that been for them?
Yeah. So from my understanding, it was 2 years ago. And
Okay, well that's good.
Right now the boat is dry docked. It's up in the air. So we're waiting for it to come down. I physically went there, looked at the boat at the marina it's being stored at. It's being stored indoors,
Okay,
indoor heated. When I spoke with the marina, they also said that they just finished doing some maintenance on it as well. So whatever new maintenance is done, they're supposed to release that information, the records of whatever maintenance has been done today, a matter of fact. And we're looking at hopefully by Friday bringing it down. And also my thoughts were, and my questions to you were, as far as we're also doing a sea trial. I think I mentioned that to you on my email, and
yep.
also and doing the survey and all that stuff. And I just, like I said, I definitely can pick your brain on your thoughts on all that.
Yep, for sure. So, couple of things. Does it have a generator? I would be surprised if it does.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, all right. There was only like a small, maybe 10% of them that were built around that time that had generators.
Okay.
But so here's what I would do when you get that boat in the water, and the surveyor should do this as well. My preference, if you can, is if you can inspect the boat completely to find anything that like you can just turn a switch on and know it works or it doesn't, then spending $800, $1,000 for that survey or whatever it is. Hey, if I can rule this boat out first, great. I can save that survey until a boat passes the inspection and then do the survey because they're going to find things that you wouldn't. But
Okay.
when the boat's in the water, I'm going to do my sea trial, cranking it up cold, running it wide open throttle for, a minute or two, coming back pretty quickly on the throttle. Does it kill off? Does it die? And run it for a good, especially with this motor situation, run it for a good 20 minutes, doing different maneuvers and playing with the trim tabs and trimming it and just all of those things that you would normally do. And then when I get back to the dock, what I want to do is I want to look for, is there any water in the bilge that wasn't there previously? But two, I want to hook it up to the shore power, and I want to turn everything on. So I want to see how well all that circuitry is working down in the cabin. So it has to be in the water to run the air conditioning. So I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to turn everything on, and I'm going to turn that AC on, and I'm going to put it down, at 60 degrees, so it just keeps running. Then I'm going to turn all of the lights on in the cabin. Then I'm going to turn the radio on and everything on at the helm. Then I'm going to put something in the microwave, a cup of water, and run that microwave and turn the refrigerator on to AC. And I want everything to be pulling off that shore power.
Okay.
So I can know, can it hold that, or is there something wrong with the wiring or circuitry that things are going to start blowing? Or just so you know, okay, I can't run the microwave and the air conditioning at the same time.
Got it.
Okay. Is it, or does everything work great and we're good to go? And then I want to let that AC continue running for at least 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes. Because what can happen is it can start overheating if it's, the filters haven't been changed, if the strainers, the seawater strainers haven't been cleaned out. If there's something wrong with it, an air conditioning could run for 5 or 10 minutes, no problem, and then crap out on you. So you want to run it for a long period of time, so that okay, it can cool and it's going to continue cooling for the long haul.
This is something I should be doing before I do a survey, correct?
I would. Are you buying? Is it a dealer or a private seller that you're going through?
It is a private seller, and
Okay.
there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple other things we can tackle on it too. Yeah, but they've been actually pretty receptive, very easy to talk to, and yeah, I've had no issues as far as negotiating the price. We already have the price set, contingent on everything's working properly.
Perfect. Yeah. As long, just say, hey, I would like to take a look at it before I spend $1,000 on the surveyor. Are you okay with that? I don't want to hold it up, but I'll have the surveyor, scheduled for 2 days after I do my personal inspection or whatever works. And I think most people, if they've got a good thing to sell, they're going to be pretty open to that. And you do it in a friendly way. I think you'll be okay. Especially since it's at a marina right now where they're not having to trailer it somewhere to put it in. It's just, hey, they can drop it in and they can pull it out in a couple of minutes.
Your thoughts on having an experienced boat mechanic, a marine mechanic, instead of a surveyor? I have a friend that is a marine mechanic that is willing to come take a look. Should I potentially forego the surveyor if I have a licensed, experienced mechanic that's willing to come out?
How? Maybe. Yeah. Yes. Have the licensed mechanic come out and look at it.
Okay.
He is going to be able to, or she is going to be able to check that engine out, pull compression, do some things that you wouldn't have the ability to, pull the drive, and check, hey, we've got some bellows issues. It looks like there's some water intrusion, grease everything up and take a look at it for you. Hey, probably need to do the gimbal bearing, those types of things. He'll be able to have a sense of, when he's looking at it.
Okay.
As far as the survey goes, that boat is 12 years old now. The Sea Ray builds probably the best small cruiser, that size cruiser in the marketplace. And if you're mechanically inclined, if you have that attention to detail and you can dig through and exercise every bilge pump, go through every switch and component, and keep track of what's working and what's not. And if you go to that used boat or that used cruiser video, I kind of
Yep.
talk through everything. And if you use that toolkit, which hopefully you've downloaded that toolkit,
Yep.
and you go through that step by step, I think you can get everything other than you're not going to have the moisture meter. But if you could tap the hull, I don't know if I've done that video. I know it's in the First Time Boat Buyers Academy.
Well,
If
I've
you've
seen
invested,
something where you talked about tapping the hole. Yes.
yeah. So just take
I've seen
a
several of the
screwdriver and
videos.
good. I love when people just keep watching them and watching them. That like, hey, that's how you're going to make sure you have a great time on your boat.
Mm,
Versus, I had a guy the other day. Every boat's just a money pit that you throw money into. I'm like, you're doing it wrong. You're not doing it right.
right.
So yeah, take that screwdriver and just tap on the transom. Tap anywhere where there's a through hull fitting, where it's going through the gel coat into that into the core of the boat or the hull of the boat, where moisture could get in and cause problems around the lower unit, around the little lifting eyes on the transom, where the air conditioning spits out the water, where the bilge pump spits out the water. Anywhere there's something goes through the hull, just take that screwdriver and tap around it, and you'll hear a sound that's it's pretty high pitched. When you hear
Right.
a thud, a low pitched thud, well, now we've got water intrusion. We have issues. But a boat that's, who knows, maybe this boat was in a hurricane at some point, or the reason it came back up to the Midwest is because it had a major issue down in Florida. That will help find that. A surveyor will certainly find a good surveyor will certainly find it, but you have a pretty good shot if you've watched all those videos and you're diligent and you're detail oriented. You can do a lot of it yourself.
Fantastic.
So I know that kind of took me a long way to say that, but there's some caveats for sure.
Yeah, I understood.
I would also ask them about the last service. If they're having that marina where the boat's stored, do the service. Hey, Bob, can you pull me all the service records on that 250 Dancer, since you guys have had it? And they should be able to pull that up for you pretty easily, as well. Just give you a sense of what's been going on. If your buddy is a Mercruiser marine mechanic, if he has the laptop that can pull the information off the ECM, the computer of that engine, he can now see if there's any faults on there, overheating, sensors, all of the monitoring that's going on. And he can also show you how that engine's been run, in the RPM bands. So, like 100 RPM segments, it'll say it's been this many hours in this RPM band, this many in this band, and you can get a sense, did they run idle the whole time? Did they run it, like a bat out of hell? What did they do? And now you get a sense for, the way they use their boat too.
Got it. Couple other things I had, if we can. The hull was really faded.
Okay.
My thoughts were, it's probably from being in the salt water and everything else that
Sure
had been going on with it. It looks faded enough where, it's probably, I don't know what's going to bring it back. Was thinking about vinyl wrapping the hull. I just wanted your opinion, your thoughts on that. I know it's can be less expensive than having somebody come out and paint everything. I'm not talking the bottom, obviously, but I'm just talking the side, the hull of this Sea Ray.
You will be able to buff that out. You can get out there with some compound, compound it, and then buff it and wax it. And you can do that with a buffer and some, go to West Marine or go to overtons.com or go to any of the products. I like the McGuire products. And you're going to be able to compound it, which will kind of get some of that oxidation off, and then come through and do wax, and it's going to look brand new. I don't care how bad that Sea Ray gel coat is.
Hmm.
12-year-old Sea Ray gel coat's going to come back and look brand new if you put the elbow grease into it. So the vinyl wrap, I think, is fine. But if you're just doing it because, man, it's going to be too expensive to do it the other way, you can get that done with some elbow grease or pay somebody else to do that with the full detail.
Okay.
If you're doing a vinyl wrap because I want a badass color scheme on it, or I want
Mhm.
something really cool and unique, I think they're fine.
Yeah.
I think they're fine. I was surprised they were as durable as I'm hearing they are.
Uh,
I thought you'd run up against a piling or something, and now it's ruined and it starts peeling off and looks awful.
uh,
But I'm not really hearing that from folks. So
yeah. I'm looking at how. I mean, I don't know if I sent you a photo or if not. Maybe I should have.
I did.
It,
No, I didn't. Is it listed somewhere?
um, I don't know if offhand. I don't think they have
Okay,
listed up
don't
anymore.
worry about it. But I would
I can
be,
always email it to you at some point, and you can take a quick peek and you
yeah,
can let me
yeah.
know.
I would be shocked if the gel coat is so bad it won't come back. I have seen some boats that have been not touched for years and years and years, and just be oxidized like crazy. With again with the right amount of elbow grease and compounding and waxing, yeah, it'll come back. Yeah, I'd put money on it.
And you recommend McGuire?
I like the McGuire products. Yeah, I mean, most of them are really good right now. If you go and look at, what is it? Surehold. I just had the ad just played on a YouTube video I was watching,
Okay.
from Ship Shape TV, but their products seem to be really good as well. But I really like the McGuire. It's spelled Maguer, so it's some weird spelling.
Okay.
But you'll be able to find it at West Marine or any online, even just Amazon. They'll have it.
That sounds good. But I think the final thing was checking the flooring. If there's any soft spots or things like that, how important is that um, in inspecting the boat? And is that a deal breaker?
It's really important, and it could be a deal breaker. I would be shocked if it's the soft floors were more common 2000 and earlier, when they weren't encapsulating the wood that they were using as well.
Okay.
And it was just it was you drilled into it, and from day one it started taking on water and started losing structure. But just hop up and down in the cockpit, especially around the pedestals of the seats. That cockpit is pretty molded, and I believe there's a liner in there as well,
Okay.
which means that you've got the hull, there's a liner, which you can kind of see when you open up compartments and stuff, and then the deck goes on top of that. So there's three layers of structure, that are going to match up with the stringer essentially. But
Okay.
I would also check that floor, in your inspection in the cabin, and not just the floor that you're walking, but pull off all of the cushions, and look up under the V berth, all of that storage area up there in that aft cabin. Pull up all of that and look in those storage compartments back there. Pull up the locker, just by the head compartment, where you're going to find a bilge pump. You're going to find the pump to the gray water coming out of the shower, and just feel down in there and kind of reach your hand up and under and feel that flooring, make sure it's solid.
Okay.
Again, another place where a screwdriver and a hammer can come in handy, where you're tapping and you're listening. If you hear something that sounds off, kind of poke that screwdriver in. Is it solid or is it mushy? But I like I said, I would be shocked if you found anything, but it's something that needs to be done regardless.
Okay. Oh, anything else that we haven't covered that
I would, because they replaced the engine, I would just be really, I would get a flashlight and look down in that engine compartment, look for a water line, any indication that maybe that boat sank. and you'll see it's kind of like the scum line on a bathtub that hasn't been cleaned for a while. You'll just see a line of dirt around the edge of it, and I would check for that as well. But and again, if your buddy comes with you as a mechanic, there's things that his eyes will just catch on, because he's seen them over and over and over, and he'll be like, "Yep, this one I can see it. This one sank, or this one has this issue." And certainly, if you can take him on that sea trial with you, and he'll have the ear for things as well.
If that did happen to have sank, and you would pretty much say, unless the price point was something different, negotiated differently, it's a no-go.
I would. Now I say that, and I helped a buddy of mine buy a boat recently that had had the water line in the compartment, but it was so low that we changed out the starter, which is the on this Volvo is on the bottom part. But everything, so that was the red flag. Okay, it sank. But everything else was good. Sea trial was good. They changed out the starter. They changed out the blower motor. They put new batteries in it. And I was like, listen, it was 23 grand for a 23-foot chaparral. It's like, at this price and what I've seen, it's okay. But again, it's one more red flag of it sank and a new motor. How, if that motor went bad, it got up pretty high. Now I'm worried about rot and things like that. How long was it under? So it's one more big red flag that you got to be extra cautious now.
Got it. All right.
So, yeah. And the other thing I would add, well, I think I mentioned the last service, from the marina that it's at. And, from there, if you do all of those inspections, I think this could be a great setup for you, from what you're talking about, moving from the boat club to in the bow rider or deck boat to cruising style. Unfortunately, I'm not in Chicago, so I don't have any connections for storage there. But I would definitely start looking for that as well, because I know that's a hot commodity in certain areas there in Chicago, and can be hard to come by. So
yeah, I'm gonna consider going with this where it's at now. Since it's indoor, they've already have the spot there. If I want to take over his spot for next year, I can do that. So,
oh, nice. That's perfect. That's perfect. And just because of curiosity, because other people may be wondering this, tell me a little bit about your boat club experience, if you wouldn't mind, William. If say their name, don't say their name. I don't really care, but I'm just curious of why it wasn't a good fit for you.
Well, the name of the company was Jet Ride. They're originally, I believe, out of Florida, and they were out here for 2 years. And long story short, they're not even out in Chicago anymore after 2 years. It was just, maybe it was the boat club itself, or just my experience, because I know you have Freedom and Carefree and several other boat clubs. They're more of a smaller boat club with just simply deck boats, no cruisers, things like that, or bow riders. But just the ratios, they never disclosed what the ratios were as far as vessels to members.
Yep.
And when they promised, I believe it was 8-1 or 10-1, it was probably felt more like 15-1. Couldn't get reservations on the weekend. Or say, for instance, in Chicago, it rains. Well, then there's your reservation. And then you lost it. And for myself, I can only speak for myself. I mean, I work Monday through Friday, so weekdays were fairly available, but the weekend reservations was so hard to come by, and there wasn't really a good communication between the management and members. So my membership was up either way at the end of this year, but for those that still had memberships, they obviously let everybody out of their contracts and everything else. But it wasn't the best experience. I can't say overall that's how all boat clubs were, but for this specific boat club, Jet Ride, it wasn't the best experience for myself.
Well, I think that's an important, what you just said. You weren't sure what their ratio is. I think that's a key to how much you're going to enjoy it. And then how flexible is your boating time?
Right.
If you can go during the week, I think in most clubs you'll have a choice of options. If you're just a weekender, man, that's when everybody else wants to go too. And if they have a 15-to-1 ratio, you're in trouble.
Right.
And I know, Carefree and Freedom have their set. And I think it's important to know is, okay, that's what they stated is,
Mhm.
but how many members do you have? And let me go count your boats. Like that,
Right.
that's the number. And how many of those boats are running properly too? So I appreciate that, because I think boat clubs are a great option for certain situations. But I do know, especially if you're coming from your own boat, the freedom of saying, "Oh, it's beautiful out today. Let's go." Having that spontaneousness, I think, is what you said. Is
Absolutely.
for me, it's key. I'm a spur of the moment. Hey, what are we doing this weekend? Yeah, let's go on the boat. That's great. So I appreciate that. Anything else, William, that's popped into your head, or that you would like to ask?
No, I think we covered it all. Definitely will follow up and email you and let you know the end result on what happens here. I
Yep.
feel pretty confident in it. I've already reserved my slip at the harbor, so it's just a little down payment. And if it doesn't work through, I get most of the money back. They keep a small little fee, and I did that due to the fact that in Chicago our boat season is so short.
Yep.
It's from May to October, but in reality, it's more like June to September because right now it's just too cold. I mean, we're at 50 degrees in May. It's just way too cold. You really can't enjoy it the way you want to. The waters are usually a little choppier in October, September and October. So we tend to have calmer, uh, calmer water in the peak summer months here. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think the one thing, their demand is through the roof right now.
absolutely.
But I just looked at numbers, and cruisers, the cruiser category on the new side is the only one of the few segments that was down,
Mm.
in volume from last year. So I thought that was interesting that the cruiser market isn't nearly as crazy. It's still crazy, but isn't nearly as crazy as the pontoon and center console, jet boat, bow rider market. So
Mm.
keep that in mind, that there's probably others out there. If for some reason there's too many red flags on this one,
Right.
don't be afraid to walk and keep looking. But I hope it all goes well, because I know that 250 dancer well, and you'll love it if it's the right one.
What are your top three makers for cruisers, in your opinion?
Yeah, for that size, for the 24 to, let's say, 38, 40,
Yes. Okay.
Sea Ray, hands down number one. They just built more of them. They build them more solid, than anybody else. The way they glass in the head compartment, and things down to the cabin, so it's one structural unit. Regal comes in second, in my opinion, and then from there it's, oh shoot, I wouldn't even know who I would go for number three. Um, it really, the market is so small that I would say Sea Ray and Regal, are one and two, and then from there it's, you're getting people that are building a handful of cruisers a
Mm.
year, and it's, you're buying based on price at that point. Hey, I want a
Right.
cruiser, but I don't want to spend that much. Bayliners has some older ones that were pretty inexpensive. Crown Line did them for a while. I don't even know if they're doing them anymore. But the last 15 years, cruiser have just been going through the floor. Everybody's
Mm.
going pontoons, and the older group is saying, I want a pontoon with all that space and a big flat surface. I don't want to be coming up and down from a cabin. And the style of boating really changed. And cruisers, the cruising style that used to be huge, has really, really shrunken down, and it's taken a lot of people out of the marketplace.
Any idea where I can get, say, for instance, on this Sea Ray, there isn't a radar arch. I
Okay.
was interested but I just can't find one to save my life online. Any direction where you can send me where you think I can possibly
I
find
don't.
one?
Yeah, I don't have any idea. My let me do some research, and the one place that I would say maybe would be like a boat graveyard where
Okay.
there's a SunDancer with an arch that sank.
Right.
But you can pull that fiberglass arch off and mount it. Um, I don't know 100% that you can mount it though.
Right.
I don't know whether you'd be able to get up and under um, on the gunnels to get that mounted properly once it's
Okay.
completed. So let me do some checking and ask around. But I'm not even 100% sure it's possible. But a boat graveyard would be the spot to pick up a used one aftermarket. I don't know. Let me do some digging for you though.
Yeah.
Hey, if it goes well, send me a picture of you on the boat. I would love to see that.
All right.
And I'll send you what I can find on the arches if that's even a possibility.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you so much for your time and everything else.
Let's pull up the anchor and run this podcast back to the dock. We'll be back again with another helpful and fun episode next time. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/guest, and I'll help offer insights into your boat research and shopping experience. Also, we'd appreciate it if you took just 2 minutes to rate and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. It helps others find us so we can help more boaters. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it in your boating groups on social media. They will certainly thank you. And by the way, if you haven't already, grab your free Boat Buyers Secret Weapon Toolkit at boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/toolkit. And so you don't pay too much for your next boat, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/save for a short video. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a few first-time boating tips for when you own your new boat. Number 1, know your local boating laws, basic navigation rules, and how to operate your boat safely. It'll make boating even more fun for everyone. 2, be aware of your wake at all times and pay attention to no wake zones because you are responsible for your wake. When maneuvering at slow speeds, you can put out an enormous wake. If going slow, be courteous, save some fuel, and drop down to idle speed, just in forward gear to ensure there is no wake. This could save you an expensive ticket and will keep you from being that guy on your waterway. Number 3, boats do not have headlights. They have docking lights, specifically made for seeing in tight quarters and docking. Do not turn your docking lights on while cruising down the water. It can blind other boaters and is very dangerous and, again, could save you an expensive ticket. Number 4, follow the maintenance schedule for your boat. Change the oil, impeller, gear lube, winterize if you need to winterize in your area. Inspect your trailer tires, bearings, and grease the hubs if you're a trailer boater to ensure you don't experience expensive and unnecessary repairs that will impact your boating time. Number 5, always double check your plug is in, your battery is charged, and the fuel is full before heading out for a day on the water. It could just save your boating day. And if you're a trailer boater, I've got a few extra tips. Number 1, at the boat ramp, prepare your boat, your gear, and your guests in the staging area. Then, when you're ready, back down the ramp, unload the boat, head to the parking lot, and right back down to your boat to be fast and courteous to your fellow boaters and don't tie up that ramp unnecessarily. Next, use transom tie-down straps when trailing your boat. Very bad things can happen if you don't, and they do happen. 3, check everything in the boat is secure before heading down the road. Seat cushions, gear, keys, towels, even tubes and lily pads can get blown out when pulling your boat down the highway or interstate. And most important, have fun. Enjoy your boat and get on the water as much as possible because life truly is better on a boat. Until next time, this is your friend in boating, Captain Matt.